For this painting, I'm just going to use the four colors: cobalt blue, phthalo blue, raw sienna, burnt sienna. I'm wetting the sky area here so that I can just paint it in puffy clouds, but avoid getting any paint on the mountain. So I'll get a hard edge up against that rocky, snowy slope there. Tilt it a bit just to make sure it evens out. I don't want puddles here and there. Just mix up some plain cobalt blue. Get a nice wash, not too thick, not too thin. A bit more water here. You just get a kind of a feel for it. You'll be able to tell on the first brush stroke if it's too wet or too dry. So that's holding up pretty good. I like it to not bleed too much, but I like to leave a little bit of white for the clouds that are going to sort of wrap around the top of this mountain peak. Just trying to shape it so it's a little bit puffy like a cloud. Now I might want to just clean the brush out here and just lift a little bit so it's not quite so harsh an edge. Just wipe the brush dry. Well, sort of dry, a little damp here. I'm going to start putting in the shadow side of the snow, this rocky surface here. I want my light to come down from the top left, so all the slopes that are on the right side will be in shadow. That's just a little burnt sienna added to my cobalt blue so that it just grays it down, darkens it slightly. Now I'll do a lot of this where I'll wet the brush and just touch the edge to try and soften it so that I'm not getting real harsh edges. I need a few of those sharp edges, like where it gets really rocky. But I want to get some smooth blending where the snow sort of turns into the light or out of the light. Same combination, just a little different mixture each time I go back. I just grab a bit more burnt sienna or a bit more cobalt blue, a little more water in some cases, because I want this little area to be slightly lighter. It just gives a nice variety, and it looks less flat if there's just a bit of change of color rather than just all, don't mix up one big batch of gray for this. Sort of mix as you go. And keep it fairly light. These colors look a little darker now because they're surrounded by white. But there's quite a bit of water in this mixture, which when I get the darks in later, you'll see. Even the darkest parts of my rocks are going to look much lighter than the foreground. Yeah, it gets a bit fiddly here, but I'm going to suggest a few trees poking through the snowy distant slopes here. A little more pigment in this to bring it closer, tend to get darker as they get closer. That's just a bit more blue and a bit more burnt sienna. Here again, mix different amounts. Now, I want to get into some darker greens, so I'm going to add my raw sienna now. Try and mix up a bit of it, and just go for a bit of cobalt blue in that mixture. So I get enough, just touch the blue and help green it up a bit here. This will help the foreground by keeping it warmer and bringing it closer to me. Yeah, that's sort of about right, but I'm gonna change the mix as I go, like I have been, only a little more dramatic now that I'm in the foreground. See how that other wash is dried quite a bit lighter, and I need that to be dry so these tree edges are sharp, don't bleed into the mountain behind it. And just soften this edge a little bit. Remember to use a larger brush for this, but I need the sharp points to make the trees. Now I've added phthalo blue to get these darker greens and mixed that with burnt sienna. Phthalo and winter blue are the same. This brush is just a cut-off oil painting brush. And I dip it in a bit of clean water, and I'll just, it's just damp, and I just want to touch it so it loosens the paint that's down there, and then wipe it up. And the idea is lift this dry paint off just a little bit so that it brings the cloud over top of the edge of the mountain. This kind of immerses the rocky outcroppings into the misty surroundings. Find a nice spot where it looks appropriate. It's just damp, this brush, so it doesn't really add water to the page. Now I want to draw, just to get a little more dimension, a little more sense of distance, push this mountain back by putting a couple of bigger trees right in the foreground. And you can see I'm getting pretty dark. This is raw, or I should say burnt sienna, with phthalo blue. Windsor blue and phthalo blue are the same. And Rembrandt blue is basically phthalo blue. All the different companies put their own name on it. Now that looks a little too solid. I think I'd like to start to just open it up. Maybe put a bit of light coming through. Just so it isn't just a big mass of foreground shrub here. Yeah, just even phthalo blue lifts off if it's glazed over top of another coat of paint, you know. And I don't need much off here. That's the finished product.